Hello and welcome to this primary election debate for Democratic candidates in Congressional District 4, representing parts of Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, and Phoenix. This debate is sponsored by Clean Elections, the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. My name is Steve Goldstein, and I'll be moderating tonight's conversation. Our format will be a little bit different tonight. We're hosting a 30-minute one-on-one discussion since only one candidate, Kai Newkirk, has agreed to participate. Greg Stanton has declined our request to attend. We are sharing this conversation as part of an effort to support democracy in Arizona through a partnership with the Citizens Clean Elections Commission, the Arizona Media Association, and Reister. It's a partnership designed to make candidate debates accessible to everyone in Arizona. That means this conversation will air on a long list of local TV stations, radio stations, and digital platforms, including support from local newspapers. It's a shared effort between hundreds of local media brands across Arizona. And thank you to voters across Arizona who've submitted questions for this debate. We have reviewed all of them to make sure every voice is heard. However, the candidate has not been given advance access to any of the questions. Additionally, candidates for this race will participate in a speed round at the end of tonight's conversation. These questions have been given to the candidate ahead of time, and he'll have 15 seconds to answer each one. And with that, let's hear from our Democratic primary candidate, Kai Newkirk. Welcome. Thanks very much for being here.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
And now you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Working class Arizonans can feel it every day. A decent life is harder and harder for us to afford. While the billionaire oligarchs try to buy our elections and rig the economy even more in their favor, we struggle with the basic cost of living more and more. I'm running to flip the tables of this corrupt status quo, from banning grocery price gouging and freezing utility rates to Medicare for all, universal child care, a national rent stabilization policy, and a national living wage. I'm fighting to deliver change for the working class and prove that democracy can do that once again.
Thank you. Let's start off with the questions now. What's your most relevant experience for this job, and how important do you think experience is for this job?
I think my most relevant experience is as a community organizer and leading nonviolent social movements in our country for decades. I think that we make a mistake in our country when we think that you have to be an attorney or have some particular higher education or something like that to serve in a government that is meant to be of, by, and for the people. This should be a government in which working class people, whether you're a teacher, a plumber, a firefighter, you feel like you can be serve in that office. And I've been fighting in the core struggles in our country that have been at stake for a long time to deliver change for people and win, and I'll bring that to bear if I serve in Congress.
So we often talk about the divide politically in this country, and it's more than just Republican and Democrat, certainly. But this is a seat that is safely held by a Democrat. Why did you choose to challenge an incumbent Democrat when you are, in fact, perhaps more progressive than he is, but you're also a Democrat, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me why you're running against an incumbent then.
I think we're in a time of emergency, of crisis in our country, whether it's the billionaires who have more wealth than entire nations while the working class struggles, or criminal wars and genocide overseas, or masked agents shooting down Americans in the street and separating families, to a heating planet and a runaway AI arms race. This is a time when status quo leadership, conventional politics, and legalized corruption is not going to save us. And in my view, our incumbent, unfortunately, has both not stood up to these emergencies with the force that's necessary, and also in some cases has enabled it or been complicit in that. And in my view, that's unacceptable. We need to go in a different direction. And I think Democrats are hungry for someone who's going to fight and face this emergency with the urgency that's necessary.
So some of the issues you mentioned we will certainly go over in this conversation. But generally, is what you said about the incumbent, Greg Stanton, does that apply to most Democrats in Congress from your perspective? Do you feel like, especially in this second incarnation of the Trump administration, they're not fighting enough? And is that even more frustrating to you than maybe a philosophical point?
I think it's definitely a problem more broadly in the Democratic Party, but there are many that are rising to the challenge. And a key question is the fact that we have to pick a side in this fight between oligarchy and ruled by the billionaires for themselves and a democracy of, by, and for the people that puts the working class first. You can't serve two masters at the same time. And our incumbent, unfortunately, takes money from the very same corporate interests that those oligarchs own and that are screwing over the working class. I reject corporate money. I won't take a dime from AIPAC. I don't want any big money super PAC support. And I'm fighting for policies that challenge those interests in order to deliver for everyday people. And I think that too many Democrats have accustomed ourselves to a corrupt campaign finance system that stops us from fighting for the change that people need.
So I'm asking you this with the presumption that you win. What if you won this seat and you actually were in Congress? Do you think that this sort of firebrand approach is something that can be effective, or will that depend on whether you'd be in the majority or minority?
Well, I think there's maybe some confusion, right? You say firebrand, right? It's true that in the nonviolent tradition that I'm rooted in, that we have to stand up fiercely against injustice and say no. And we're willing even to put our safety, our freedom, sometimes our life on the line to do so. But we're always also reaching out an open hand and seeking not to destroy anyone. We don't hate anyone. We hate the sin, not the sinner. And ultimately, we seek reconciliation. And so that's the spirit that I organize in. I love to work with people, talk with people who have a different perspective. I've worked with Republicans on campaigns in the past and people who disagree deeply with me. But I'm seeking to find that common ground as human beings and as people who care about our country. Both in leadership, if I'm in Congress, I'll be able to reach across the aisle while also standing strong for our principles. And as a candidate, I'm reaching out to people, whatever party you're in. You might be someone who voted for Trump, but your grocery prices are going up. I'm fighting to ban that grocery price gouging. Your utilities are going up. I'm fighting to freeze utility rates. You're fighting with the health care insurance company when you're sick. I'm fighting for Medicare for all. And so we have a common interest, and I'm reaching out to people to come together. Dr. King talked about making America a beloved community. That's the vision I'm dedicated to.
Well, let me ask that now then. Is he one of your political idols? Are there other political heroes you can tell us about?
Most definitely, most definitely. I'm inspired by the example of the courage, the willingness to sacrifice, the commitment always to the least of these, and having a vision of an America that was, in which we all can belong.
So let's go to the issue of immigration enforcement, which has been extremely scary for a lot of Democrats, but non-Democrats as well. Are you someone who, we've heard this phrase before, would you want to abolish ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
Yes. We have to abolish this agency. We have to disband it. It has proven that it's a danger not just to the rights of Americans, citizens and immigrants alike, but to our lives. ICE was only founded in 2003 to take, after 9/11, to take a counterterrorism approach to the civil matter of immigration. I think it's proven itself to be a disaster. We don't just need to rein it in, like the incumbent says. In my view, we need to disband it, end that agency, restructure the Department of Homeland Security as it pertains to immigration, and reorganize not just immigration law to have a path to citizenship, but how we enforce that to put humanity at the center. And this is a huge point of disagreement. I talk to so many Democrats who are outraged and afraid about what has been happening. People that are afraid to leave their homes as immigrants, and citizens that cannot accept living in a country where this kind of thing is happening. And in their view, and in mine as well, the fact that our incumbent voted for the Laken Riley Act that gave Trump a green light for his authoritarian mass deportation campaign and began this erosion of due process, gave ICE more power to detain and deport people. To me, that's an outrage. That was the first fight in the question of whether we were going to go in the direction of authoritarian mass deportation or uphold the values on the Statue of Liberty. And Stanton was in a small minority of Democrats in the House who voted for that bill. Others have apologized for it. I encourage him to do so. It might be one reason why he's not here at this debate tonight, because he doesn't want to have to answer questions like that. But in my view, we have to be accountable. He should apologize, and we need to fight for the reforms that will end this reign of terror once and for all, which does indeed mean abolishing that agency.
So if ICE did not exist, what sort of immigration enforcement would you believe in for those who are undocumented? Should they have a path to citizenship? Should they be sent to the back of the line, as people say? What are your thoughts on those who did come into the country without documents illegally?
Well, you know, you see Trump has his gold card, right? So people that are wealthy abroad and they want to come here, they can pay to get in. But if you're a poor and working class person, if you're someone who's fleeing economic disaster, there's no path for you. There's no line to get into. And we have to understand. Let's look at what we're doing as a country. We trust undocumented immigrants to care for our children, to care for our elders, to grow and serve our food, to build our homes, and yet somehow not to be protected and have the basic rights to have legal status and a path to citizenship. To me, that is a deep hypocrisy. It's a matter of justice as well as mercy and compassion to finally deliver on that path to citizenship. And I'll never stop fighting for that.
And one thing that, at least for a while, seemed to have support on both sides of the aisle, and that has changed a bit, shall we say, DACA. Where do you stand on that and the importance of committing to those who were brought to this country undocumented but did not have a say in the matter?
Absolutely, of course. There are loved ones in my life, family members that rely on DACA. It was a huge victory, and we have to protect it. And I've been involved in the fight, not just to help win it in the first place, but to protect it when Trump tried to repeal it. And it's not just for DACA recipients, though absolutely we have to fight for that, and Trump is doing more now to put those folks at risk. But it's for all the undocumented immigrants who are rooted in our country and are contributing to our nation, to our communities day in and day out.
Let's talk about affordability. For a number of years, inflation was an issue in the Biden administration, but we've seen it ramp up again in the Trump administration. Most people think it's related to the war with Iran. But tell me, what are the most important ways of making this a more affordable nation? We have unaffordable housing for a lot of folks, unaffordable health care for a lot of folks. How do you start to fix those problems?
This is a core focus for me in my campaign, is to bring down costs for working class people in our country. I think to solve a problem, you've got to diagnose it correctly. And we have to understand that we're not going to be able to solve this problem without confronting the power of the oligarchs. We can't take money from the same corporate interests that are profiting off a corrupt status quo and screwing over the working class. So in my view, the first step is to understand that and take action to break the grip of that dependence and then take our power back. We have to ban corporations and billionaires from the political spending that they're doing to try to buy our elections so we can free ourselves to fight for the policies that we think are right, regardless of what they think and whether it's going to make them richer or not. And then once we do that, we can deliver on the kind of bold policies that people will feel in their day-to-day lives, like FDR did when we were facing the threat of fascism. He delivered Social Security and changed the lives of poor and working class seniors in our country. So that's what I'm fighting for, to freeze utility rates, which we can do to stop water and electricity prices from going up beyond so many people's reach and straining them. I want to fight for a moratorium on the AI data centers that are jacking those up, a national rent stabilization policy, and massive investment in affordable and social housing, Medicare for all to finally join much of the rest of the world to guarantee health care as a right, not a privilege, a national living wage at least $17 an hour indexed to inflation, a federal jobs guarantee, universal child care, and banning price gouging in groceries and gas. We can do a windfall profits tax on the big oil corporations that are making incredible historic profits right now and give a rebate to working class folks to cover this huge increase in gas prices. So this is what's possible if we actually decide that we're not going to accept a government that's primary purpose is to help enrich the billionaire class. And we say, no, it's a government of, by, and for the people, and we're going to prove it. We're going to make it so you can feel it in your daily lives, that it's easier to get by.
Tell us who specifically the oligarchs are in the U.S.
There are many of them. If you look at Trump's inauguration, there was a good number that were sitting there with him. But we have to understand it's not about particular individuals, right? Although that's important to call them out and understand that, whether it's Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, but to understand that it's a corrupt campaign finance system and a rigged economy that is enabling this vicious cycle of them spending that unlimited wealth in our elections to try to pick politicians that are going to help them and rig the economy more in their favor, and then sucking up more and more of the wealth and hurting working class people. So I come out of the labor movement as well. I've fought to win a union in my workplace. We have to empower and build our democracy in that way as well and empower workers to organize. I think over half of workers in our country who are not in a union say they want to be. Why can't you? Because companies crack down with impunity. So we need to make our government stand on the side of those people and shift power from the oligarchs to everyday people.
So some political observers have said in the past that the average voter, whoever that person is, often votes against his or her interests. So how do you get enough of a movement where people say, oh, I'm not just going to mark the ballot because it's an R or a D next to it, but they're thinking in terms of what will change the country in the way you'd like to?
Well, I think we got to just mobilize and organize based on the truth and talk to people about the problems they're facing. Like I just said, I know that Democrats are with me, the vast majority, on these issues of distinction between myself and Greg Stanton, whether it's taking corporate money, supporting Medicare for all or not, whether it's abolishing ICE, whether it's more military aid to Israel or not. But also, these things are popular with voters across the board in many cases. And if we reach out to people and say, look, whoever you voted for before, I care about you. I care about your family. I'm fighting for a better future for you. Join our movement. This is a movement of love, truth, and people power. And we're bringing people together to create a new day for all of us because we share common interests, right? We're driving the same streets together, right? Our utilities are through the same companies, and we're buying groceries in the same system, right? So we have to understand that let's come together across that. Let's not be divided by the oligarchs who want to divide and conquer, but understand we have common interests as working class people, and we can make our lives better if we elect people that are going to be not beholden to the corporations, but are going to fight for us and deliver.
So how would you respond to those who, for example, in California, talking about a billionaire's tax, those who will argue that, well, if you start actually taxing the billionaires at a particular rate, then they'll just move their operations elsewhere and that will cause a job loss. I presume that's not your philosophy, but how do you quell against thoughts like that where people think if there is a reform in that direction, well, the economy might actually get worse because we'll have fewer jobs?
I don't think history bears that out. You know, there were times in our country where tax rates on the super wealthy and corporations were much, much higher. People weren't fleeing this country. People want to be in the U.S. for many reasons, because of the culture, because they're rooted here, because it's this huge market, because of our incredible education system, all these reasons. We can't let them scare us into submitting and bending the knee and saying, okay, rule over us like you were born for that. No. This is a one-person, one-vote democracy. We're not going to be ruled over by oligarchs. We're going to come together as working class people, take back our power, and insist that government serves us equally.
Whether it is human-caused or whether it is cyclical, the climate is changing. We know that too, and we don't know how long it's going to change. We don't know any of those things at this point, but that has affected certainly the Southwest tremendously. And Arizona's already in a position when it comes to water, particularly in our urban areas with Phoenix and Tucson. Colorado River water, we're talking with the feds about, do we negotiate with our neighbor states that take from the Colorado River? What are your thoughts generally on climate change? And then more specifically, what would you advocate for in terms of protecting Arizona's water supply, and also whether it's conservation, whether it's working with other states? Big question there, but what are your thoughts?
Well, you're right. The climate emergency is a profound planetary crisis, and there's been less attention on it since Trump was elected, but the physics are the same, the planet is heating, and the consequences are going to grow, and especially here in Arizona with the extreme heat that we face, we have to take it on. And that means standing up to the fossil fuel companies that are profiting off the status quo and saying, you're not going to run the show, you're not going to stop us from moving forward with a massive transition to clean energy. And which is also going to create tons of good jobs, cleaner air, and a better life for all of our communities. So we have to mobilize and understand that this is something that has profound effect, not just now, but for future generations. It is truly an emergency. And in Arizona, we have a huge opportunity. In Australia, they are producing so much solar energy now that electricity is free between noon and 3. We're competitive in solar potential with Australia, I'm sure, but we have to build out the infrastructure and deliver that, which could make a huge difference for people in terms of utility prices right now. And on the water question, we have to negotiate a fair agreement in terms of Colorado River allocation post-2026. But if we aren't addressing the broader crisis of the climate, then the drought is just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. There'll be less water into the Colorado period. And we have to understand that whatever agreement we make between the states or here, that it has to prioritize residents and essential uses, agriculture for Arizona and our nation, not alfalfa for the Saudis, right? Foreign interests buying up our land and our water without regulations, or industrial interests that we're not holding accountable. The Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing, it's a great investment. But if we're going to be putting billions and billions of dollars of public money into it, we should require, in a case like that, that they are making sure that their water use and that it's verifiable, that it's recycled, and then not creating a burden on residents here and driving up utility rates. Same thing with the AI data centers, right? In my view, we need a moratorium, both because this technology is so transformational. We need to make sure it helps all of us and not just the oligarchs, but also to make sure that these data centers aren't impacting our utilities, driving up power costs, creating problems in terms of water, or being sited improperly. They're trying to build one in Ahwatukee in the district. Our incumbent hasn't taken a stand on it that I know of. He takes money from some of the interests that are involved in big tech. I'm joining with those folks in the community to stand against that. It's being put right among homes, right in a residential neighborhood. That's wrong, and that's going to impact the water too. So we need to think about these things in an interconnected way and understand that if we don't stand up to corporate interests across the board in terms of policy, including in water, then it's going to be a raw deal for working class people.
This is not meant to sound disrespectful, I promise you, but this sounds very quixotic in the sense that a lot of the things you're talking about are things that maybe a lot of voters like, but these are things that can't be done, most would say, quickly. How do you not only change the tide on that, but then honestly say to people, okay, what I'm saying is the best direction for the country, but you may not see results quickly?
Well, look, people said that about so many different fights in our country, whether it was women fighting to win the right to vote, or ending slavery, or ending Jim Crow in the South, or winning Medicare in the first place, right? There's always been that opposition that doesn't believe that's cynical, right, or that just wants us to give up. I disagree with that. I think change is possible. A new day is possible when everyday people and working class folks come together, organize, and fight for it. So it's not going to be easy, but if we don't fight for what we believe in and what we need, what are we doing here, right? We're in a time of crisis and emergency as a nation. We should fight for the change that will actually get us out of it and help us to live in a good way where a decent, good life is affordable for all of us, where we can realize the stream of liberty and justice for all. To me, that is possible, but it means confronting the problem, confronting the oligarchs that are holding us down and keeping us back, taking our power back, and delivering this change. It's going to be hard, but we're going to organize together, we're going to fight, and we can win just like our forebears overcame great struggles in their time.
You mentioned earlier you've worked with Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated voters. Would you be willing to compromise if you were in Congress? Are you someone who would be a pragmatist, or would you feel like, I might become a pragmatist after some of these other things I want to support and push through are actually manifested?
Of course. You got to stand on your principles. You got to fight for what you believe in. You push as far as you can get. And when you're in situations where compromise is the best thing that you can do to take a good step forward, even if it's not everything that you want, or to stop something bad from happening, you do that. And I'm not opposed to that. I've done that many times in my organizing life, in the coalitions that I've helped to build and helping to win and pass legislation that helped many people. When I was a deputy to a city councilman in LA, where we had more constituents than a congressional district generally does. So to me, like I said before, that's a part of the nonviolent movement tradition that I believe in, is standing on your principles, being willing to fight, entering into conflict, being willing to sacrifice, mobilizing power, but also keeping the hand open and trying to bring people together towards higher ground.
Are you optimistic that can happen?
Absolutely. I look back at the struggles we've overcome in the history of our nation and around the world. To me, as long as we're breathing, there is hope. And right now, we see that there's a hunger across the country. We had over 8 million people in the streets for No Kings, right? They're coming out to saying we're not going to live under authoritarian tyranny. And I've been out with so many people that are organizing, standing up and saying we want to go in a different direction as a country, and we want our Democratic Party to finally take a stand and be on the side of working class people, to break with corporate power and deliver the kind of change that we've done in the past. I'm an FDR, MLK, AOC Democrat. We can do big things. We can deliver for people. We just have to break the shackles of the oligarchs on our party and for our campaigns. Talk about the truth, what we really want, come together, organize, and fight for it. I've done that in the past as an organizer, as a leader, and if I'm elected to Congress, I'll apply those decades of experience to delivering. And people are going to feel it in their daily lives, right? We're seeing it. Zoran Mamdani in New York City, people said he couldn't get done so much, and they're opening up public grocery stores. They are delivering on universal pre-K. People are sending their kids to that, and it didn't exist before, and it's saving them tens of thousands of dollars. So we shouldn't listen to the people that are profiting from the corrupt status quo when they say, hey, you can't have anything good. You can't change your lives for the better. No, we should look to our history and what's happening now, organize together, fight, and win it.
Our speed round questions are up in just a minute, so I want to ask you about a 60-second question about this. Were you a fan of what came to be known as Obamacare, or would you have wanted to change it? And if you were in Congress, what sort of health care reform would you support?
I was an organizer in the fight to help win that. I led a mobilization for health care for all. We did sit-ins around the country. I was arrested multiple times in that, along with many others. I believed in Medicare for all at the time. But like I said, sometimes that's the best you can get. You have to compromise. And I supported those like Bernie Sanders who voted to improve the bill and deliver it. That has helped tens of millions of poor people in our country get health care through Medicaid. It's helped. I was on it at one time. Family members are. So I'm so proud of that. It was good. But still, even for folks who are on the exchange, as I have been in the past, you're dealing with an illness and you're fighting with a for-profit health insurance company that doesn't want to approve the care that your doctor recommended, or people going into incredible back-breaking medical debt. That's wrong. We're the wealthiest nation in the world. We can guarantee health care as a right through Medicare for all like many other nations do. I'll never stop fighting to deliver that.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to shift into our speed round questions. And again, the candidate has been given these questions ahead of time and only has 15 seconds to answer each one. So 15 seconds. What is your most important issue on day one if you become a member of Congress?
Bringing down costs for working class Arizonans. To do that, we have to protect our democracy and defeat Trump's authoritarian drive to seize power.
You did good. That was less than 15 seconds. What is a win for this district you believe only you can secure?
There's two: Medicare for all and getting ICE off our streets and out of our state forever. Why am I the only one that can do that in the race? Because I'm the only one who wants to make that happen, who's committed to those goals.
Okay. How will you balance the demanding schedule in Washington, D.C. with being present and accessible to the people in your district?
A lot of flights and doing public events, both online and in person, to talk with the voters. Our incumbent has canceled or not shown up to, I think, 5 different either forums or debates now. I'm not going to govern like that. If I'm elected, I'll be accessible to people.
Okay, last speed round question. You can maybe have a little more than 15 on this one. What do you love most about Arizona?
Well, I'd have to say the land, just our beautiful mountains, rivers, canyons, forests. I try to get out there as much as I can. And also just the great people that I've connected with in my years here and the people that are coming together in our campaign. When I see the love that they feel in their hearts for their neighbors and that they're willing to go to work to make our lives better, it's a beautiful thing and it makes me happy.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions. And now it's time for your closing statement. Mr. Newkirk, you get 1 minute.
We're in a time of emergency and crisis for our nation on so many fronts, from this cost of living crisis and billionaires that are trying to buy our elections, to genocide and criminal wars abroad, to our heating planet, a runaway AI arms race, mass agents shooting down Americans in the streets. We need a Democrat who will fight to flip the tables of that corrupt and authoritarian status quo and deliver change for everyday people that we can feel in our lives. Our incumbent refuses to answer questions on his record and these votes that he's made against the values and interests of Democrats. I'll never do that. And if I'm elected, I'll apply the decades of experience I have as a community organizer and a leader in nonviolent movements to deliver this change for our people and meet the test of this historic moment. I ask for your vote and your support. Go to kaiforaz.com to join our movement.
And that's all the time we have for our one-on-one conversation with Kai Newkirk, Democratic candidate for Congressional District 4. As a reminder, the Arizona primary election is on July 21st, and early voting starts June 24th. All registered voters can participate in the primary, and that includes independents. The voter registration deadline is June 22nd. To register to vote, head to azcleanelections.gov. You can also head to azmedia.org to see a list of every local media partner, plus upcoming debates and where you can find them on TV, radio, and digital platforms. You can also see the full debate schedule, learn more about Clean Elections, and submit questions for future debates by heading to azcleanelections.gov. On behalf of our partners at Clean Elections, the Arizona Media Association, Reister, and Sneaky Big Studios, thanks for joining us.